Welcome everyone, my name is Federico Tozzi. I'm the Executive Director of the Italy America Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome all of you to our masterclass on a new Italian region, Calabria this time. So first of all, let me say thank you to our host, Jackie Rothong, brand ambassador from Viking. We are at the Middleby Residential Showroom in Manhattan. It's the place where we are filming all these wonderful master classes. So thank you, Jackie, for helping us and for hosting us. We have another person that you already know, Francesco Lupo, food educator. He's going to tell us all about Calabria and the wonderful product from Calabria. And today, as a chef, a new chef, we have Silvia Barban from a restaurant in Brooklyn called LaRina Pastificio and Vino. She's originally also from Calabria. Her mother is from Calabria. She's going to tell us all about this wonderful food and these wonderful dishes. So I'm not going to take too much of your time.
Yeah.
Jackie.
First of all, we are so excited to have you guys here in the New York City showroom today and to be featuring Calabria with the Italian American Chamber of Commerce. So I don't know much about Calabria or really southern Italy. Like I've been to Puglia, but that's kind of it. So I do know some things. I did look some stuff up. So I'm kind of prepared for today's episode, but I think we're going to rely on our two guests with us today. So Silvia, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where your inspiration comes from.
So, hello everybody, ciao. My name is Silvia and I have a restaurant in Brooklyn. And so my mother is actually from Calabria, so thanks for having me here because I love to talk about Calabria, the region. I feel like it's my region because I spend so much time there. And today that's why I'm making Maccheruni o ferretto, and basically it's a traditional pasta that like everybody makes at home during all this Sunday, and it's beautiful. It's like I'm very attached to my family and my story, and so I'm so happy to show you. And my mother's from Bagnara, Calabria. And we are gonna use some Calabrian chilies, some caciocavallo, and I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, well, we're really excited to have you. And I'm so excited to learn about the ingredients that are from this particular region. Because as you know, if you've attended any of our other master classes, we have been featuring all of the ingredients from all of the different regions that we've covered. So we're really excited to see what's cooking in Calabria. So Francesco, tell us about what we're going to be talking about today.
Well, when we talk about Calabria, everybody thinks it's I don't want to call it a forgotten regions of Italy, but it's one of the most unique regions of Italy because historically is where the Greek Magna Graecia started. So you have a great influence by the Greeks. Historically, you will have a lot of ingredients that are Greek, a lot of ingredients that are from the Arabs that came through, like the rice. You will see a lot of changes in the demographics. I would consider like a little Switzerland because it has beautiful beaches, but it has mountains, valleys in the mountains, areas that are very wild. I think it's the wildest regions of Italy. It's very unique, a place where you can actually be away from everything and enjoy everything.
I love that.
But the uniqueness and that, I would call it solarities because it got close to itself, maintains a lot of the culinary traditions that we're going to be talking about, and some of the ingredients stay the same, and they're represented in this plethora. We're going from the Crotonese, which is one of the oldest cheeses, started with the Greeks.
Yeah.
Still made the same way with sheep milk. We go to the provola, which came about in 1000 AD with cow's milk, because compared to other regions, the animals there, you find sheep, goats, cows. So the cheeses that come from there will have that spectrum that you don't find as much in other parts. Then we have wonderful oils. You can see we're very ancient Corolea cultivar, which is one of the oldest one. The Greeks started the olive oil business in Calabria. One of those things that this traditional oil maintains something that has become very new in the industry, which is called regenerative farming.
Okay.
Everybody wants to talk about that? Well, the Calabrians have been doing it for 6,000 years, so we'll
Most
careful with
Italians
that.
It's not
have been
that
doing
new.
this.
It's not that new, but
It's not
Calabria,
that new. It's new to the United States.
Calabria now, especially with certain products, they're very genuine. There's
Right.
a small manipulation by man. There is a lot of focus on the terroir, el territorio makes a very major difference in the products here, and here it reflects more than anywhere else, from the wines to the oils to the pastas to everything that comes out of Calabria.
I'm really excited mainly because there's so many different cultures that influence Calabria, and I think that's what makes it so unique. And like there's a lot of flavors that come into play. And I mean, to be honest, I was looking up like, okay, foods of Calabria and all this kind of stuff, and I, fell upon the, I'm gonna say eggplant meatballs, but you guys will say polpette di melanzane.
Polpette di melanzane.
Almost, guys. I gotta get back to my Italian lessons. But I'm excited because I know Calabria, Calabrese, and Calabrian chilies are like a huge, huge part of that. So talk to me about like Calabrian chilies and like where that comes from and like how did that happen? How did that come about?
Well, I'll start and you finish, okay? As you know, certain peppers actually came from the Americas.
Okay.
So Calabria being part of the Spanish dominum at the time, we're talking about 1492 when the first ones start coming in. Even the tomatoes that you see, it's an ingredient that everybody thinks is Italian, but it's actually. But in Calabria, the cultivation of capsicum became very important to them. It was an easy thing to grow. And then they start trying it out, and they saw they have flavors and heat to it. Due to the climatic condition, because everybody thinks that Calabria is hot.
Yeah.
In reality, Calabria goes to.
I do think that. Like
No,
you hear Calabria and you think hot, maybe it's because I'm thinking of the chili.
There's a mountain region called Aspromonte, and it's one of the coldest spots of Italy.
Really?
It almost is not there too.
It snows there all the time.
Yeah, you can actually ski sometimes.
You can?
Yes.
Wow.
Actually, the Sila has a great skiing resorts if anybody's interested in skiing.
Yes, I am. That sounds amazing.
That took hold because spices was a representation of wealth.
Okay.
So, but this was the easiest way to become wealthy or showing people that you were wealthy. But then the flavors took over, and the spiciness of, in the Scoville amount is probably in the middle. It's not that spicy.
Right.
But there's another issue is it was used as a preservation, and a lot of things, even cheeses and salumi, it was used to preserve meats and stuff. Because they have no refrigeration, so they realized that the pepper was working for that.
Oh wow!
But it's a miss. I would say it's one of those metropolitan stories. That people think about Calabria, food is spicy and everything else. Yes, they do like the spiciness. They have breakfast with andouille, pepperoncino. That's but it's not all like that. That's the diversity of the region. Right. Because the region is so diverse. So. You may find some area where, some products are very familiar and everything is Calabrese, like andouille. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And outside of the town of Splinga, nobody knows where andouille is, except for the U.S. Okay. So it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing about Calabrian chilies? Like, if you actually go to Calabria, you don't call them Calabrian chilies. Like, nobody knows what's Calabrian chilies in Calabria.
So what do you call it? Pepperoncino?
Pepperoncino,
okay, got
and then you come here, it's like Calabrian chilies. Like, oh, I didn't know. Like, why we call it Calabrian chilies?
It's so funny how Americans develop these names for things that aren't even true.
But I think Calabria is like one of, because of my story, but also the fact that he was saying is like, there is the Aspromonte, there is the cold, like there is meat, that's where you eat the meat. Then you go like 40 minutes down and there is the ocean, there is all seafood and fish. Right. And it's just like so beautiful how it's like versatile as a region, and like so many people they don't know about it. Like everybody knows Puglia and Sicily. It's like, but in the middle there is Calabria, and there is like so many delicious food there.
It's like the lost region.
Yeah, it is the lost region.
One of the best things about Calabria in some parts is how they use the pork. Mm-hmm. I mean, you wouldn't think of a hot region to be able to use pork because this animal needs to have a cold climate. But in Calabria they do great dishes with pork that surpass any other or northern regions that work with that. That's the diversity of the region. So Calabria has everything for everybody. Mm-hmm. One of the main things is the ingredients are so unique and on standalone, they work well, that the Calabrians don't really manipulate their food that much. There's not much manipulation. It's very simple, like tomato and garlic and a little pasta.
But that's what I love, because I feel like something in the United States that I see, and what I see when I go to a very authentic Italian restaurant in the United States is I see, someone like you cooking who's from the region, who's from the area, which is so amazing, and everything is simple, yet elevated. But when I go to these other restaurants where people are trying to cook a certain way because that's what they think it is, it's like a million ingredients and like I'm throwing in this, I'm throwing in and it just doesn't work. So that's also something I believe in. Simple, not tons of ingredients, nothing crazy, and just elevate those flavors that we
If we want to
love.
talk about that, it's like the crotonese.
Yeah.
Crotonese has been made the same way since the Greek times, but became a DOP 25 years ago. DOP means that the European community defines the product by, the ingredients are defined by the demographic of the area.
Right.
That's what that means. And if that fits into the documentation, they add this label on it, which is given by the, so that means that product can only be made in that specific area.
Right.
In this case, pecorino crotonese is only made in Calabria, but specifically in the Crotone area.
Okay.
Specific because of the island, the elevation where it's located, the grass that the sheep eats, and the type of sheep that gets used. So in the milk content, it's very simple: salt and milk.
Yeah.
There's nothing complicated.
And it's delicious.
As
but
in
everything takes time, though.
It
right?
does.
You have
it
to
does.
have patience in Italy.
It does. Like,
Everything takes a
the
long
one
time.
that you have in front of you is a 6 months old, which is more intense, great for grating and adding to dishes. The one up here is a fresher. It's like a milkier flavor to that.
Sure.
That's it. And then you have the cow's milk provolone, provolone della Sila, which is a cheese that the cows are left to roam freely to eat everything around that's good for them. That gives the flavor because it's not even pasteurized. It's a raw milk cheese.
Wow. There's so many options
So
and
many.
so many
Start,
different things in Calabria that I didn't even know were a food of that region. But talk to me about like growing up and like what is so meaningful about the dish you're making for us today.
Yeah, so growing up, so my mother is from Bagnara, Calabria, and the thing is like all the family, it was a big family. It's about 10 brothers and sisters all together. So I have like 9 aunts, uncles.
Yeah.
But just one of them stay in Calabria and all the rest they migrated in Lombardia. So that's actually where I was born.
Okay.
But I felt like my heart is Calabrese because of my mother and like the love for cooking beside my grandmother. Another figure for me was my aunt, that she's the one that still is in Calabria. And it's so funny because every time she will come and visit on the north, she will make this pasta for all of us. For all of us, it means,
Like
I have
50 people?
Yeah, but like each uncle and aunt have like nephew and
Right,
nieces
right.
and son and daughter.
Wow.
So she will spend on a Sunday, go to the household and start to make this pasta with like all day and just make it for the household. So like for my mother, for my sister, for me, and then I will be the one helping her out. But then she will go to another house and do the same things for their household, for like my other aunt. And that's what she spends. She basically spent like 2 weeks and she will come and just cooking and sharing these kind of things with all of us. And that's why it's so precious for me, this recipe, because it reminds me of her and all the Sunday afternoon spending with her. And she will make this one, she will make another dish that is beautiful. It's like there is this fish that we don't have it here in the United States, but it's called pesce spatula. And it's like one of those fish that you're like, why is it so ugly? Why do you want to eat that?
Right.
But instead it's like so delicious. It's full of spine and she will take all the time to take everything out. And she will use the base, Pecorino is like one of the things that is always in every dish. Doesn't matter if it's fish or not.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but like she will do this, you're doing eggplant
I am.
meatball. She will do fish. So she will use the fish with the breadcrumbs, with the garlic, kind of the same ingredients that you're using today, and the pecorino and the garlic.
It's
and
probably
those
amazing.
And those are the best things ever.
But one thing I was thinking, maybe your aunt will come with 4 or 5 suitcases
Oh,
of
yeah,
ingredients.
of
Because I don't think she will go to a Milano supermarket to get the ingredients.
Well, everybody says like every time I will go to Calabria, then my aunt will give me extra suitcase because in the extra suitcase there will be the pecorino and the olive because it's like, it doesn't taste the same in the north.
That's so funny. So a few times I've gone to Italy and I've studied and I cooked in Palenzo and Alba in that area, and that's when I learned I needed to bring an extra suitcase and a bag to bring home ingredients to the United States.
But in this case, it's actually religion.
Yeah.
You
okay.
You don't want you don't want to cross boundaries with a relative that's coming from Calabria
No.
or
Okay.
any region.
You
So
don't.
put
You do
suitcases
not.
and ingredients and to tell them that not to do it. You know,
Okay, got it.
Because
It's very, she will get very offended.
Wow.
She will not talking to you anymore.
or if-
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Calabrian people are stubborn, very
Yeah.
stubborn.
Yeah.
Trust me.
well,
I know
believe
by.
Oh, that's what we say in Italy. Testadura, you know.
Testadura.
So, like you're saying, you know, I have a friend of mine that lives in Chicago, and you know, one of the more good Calabrian restaurants in the U.S., I would say, and they insist on getting the olive oil from their grandfather. You know, they spend like $15,000 to bring a pallet of olive oil into the U.S.
Yeah.
That you know probably could, but there's a uniqueness to the oil that they truly believe on.
Yeah, I
And-
mean, I believe it. You
and
can
that's been-
taste it.
As been
Yeah.
as they started, in this case we have the Lamezia, and then we have a representation of another olive oil from the same area that's been made for since the 1700s from a family called Ciampi. But the Lamezia DOP is very peculiar because everything is done to preserve and to maintain the integrity of the soil,
Right.
which reflects in the flavor of the olive oil.
Well, you can certainly taste it when you're cooking with it and when you're using it. That's for sure. Like, there's a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, he's like here in Chicago, but I mean, we will do the same thing. Like be in Lombardia,
Yeah.
you will come out with like tin and tin of extra
Yeah,
virgin
olive
olive oil in
oil.
your
Oh,
suitcase.
wow.
And like 10 years ago, flying it wasn't that cheap, so you
So
will
take
take the
train.
train. So the train
Right.
to go from Calabria to
Overnight,
Lombardia.
I'll take one of those. And
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like 15 hours because actually the
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the trip is 8 hours.
Okay.
But then train are always delayed, so
Sure.
it will be 14 hours. So you will be for 14 hours with a suitcase full of ice packs, cheese,
the funny part
olive oil.
The part is I took a train from Palermo to
amazing.
Turin once, and
Uh-huh.
we stopped in Calabria. They all came up, and it was like a party, and everybody had
Yeah.
cheeses, and they were sharing the wine, and it was like
That's true. You're never
Yeah.
going to go hungry if you get stopped
No,
on the
no,
train.
that was-
You just have suitcases of stuff.
Yeah.
that was one of my best train rides.
Yeah, there is no vending machine.
Yeah.
If you get out to the train station, you will see everybody like coming out with like something from their luggage. To be arancini, arancini also is a thing that is like
He used because it
in
crossed
Calab-
over from Calabria
Yeah,
to
from
to
Sicily.
Calabria.
But like eggplant, fried eggplant.
Right.
My aunt will always make sandwiches with
It's a
fried
classic.
eggplant.
It's
Yeah.
a
Classic.
It's a classic.
You know, you're
For
like
traveling?
in a train and you're like
Eating.
taking out this eggplant sandwich.
Oh my God, I need to be
Gigantic.
part of your family. This sounds amazing.
Like it's just 10 sandwiches. Like it's 2 of us. You
And
know?
sandwiches, just in case you find no make France,
Yeah.
it's like have extra ones.
Oh my
Same thing
God.
if you go to the beach, it's like 2 people with like 4 cases of like food just in case.
Oh
I
yeah.
have to say, like, I'm not from Italy, but I have those traditions as well, where I make a lot of food, like 4 or 5 sandwiches for 2 people, and they're like, "What are you
Yeah.
doing? What's that for?
Yeah.
Who's eating all this?" I'm like, me? I don't know. What if we meet somebody?
I mean, what you're making right now is basically the base of typical beach, Sunday beach
Yeah.
lunch.
Well, I think what's nice about this dish, so let's talk about food again,
Yes.
a little more food, but what I'm making. Eggplant meatballs, and I'm gonna do like a white wine cherry tomato sauce with it with shallots, a little sweet, and most people don't use white wine when they're making a tomato sauce, so I kind of want to show people how to do that. But this is a really good dish to serve like room temperature as well. Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be piping hot. I think you could probably bake them as well. I haven't tried baking them. Maybe they'll melt down. I don't know. But
work.
you
Yeah,
could probably
that'll
bake
work,
them.
yeah.
Yeah. I was telling Silvia before we started the class that I hate when you make meatballs and you fry them and they don't keep their round shape. That kind of drives me nuts. But so you told me that this is somewhat of traditional in Calabria.
Yeah, it is. It is. As I was saying, like my aunt
Yeah.
will always make that one for us, and it's also like maybe you don't need the meatballs. I mean the eggplant. I'm just gonna say in the Italian way.
Yeah,
The polpette di melanzane, you're not gonna eat it, all of them. Then the next day, what you do, you actually made the pasta that I'm making, and then threw it in the sauce.
Yeah,
Yes.
them on.
Oh my God,
Because
that sounds
a very
amazing.
important thing is
Right.
like, I think in the household also in Calabria, but like everywhere in Italy, it's you always use everything that you have. You never left, like there is not leftover. Everything
Couldn't
goes
agree
back.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, so the pasta that I'm making, the maccheruni, so un ferretto is basically this one. So this one is a very fancy thing because my aunt doesn't have this one.
Oh, this is like metal.
That's
Wow, this is fancy.
Yeah,
Very
this is
fancy.
very fancy. So what they're gonna do? So my aunt actually, she used to own a laundry. So you know
the wire, the coat wires.
the wire for the where you put your clothing.
Yes.
The hanker. So what she would do, she would just
take that
off and use that one. So like everybody, you don't need this fancy thing.
Yes.
You can just go in your wardrobe, take that down, cut it up, and that's what you need to make this pasta.
Wow, that's all.
And it's actually better because this one is a little thick, but actually the one from
is thinner.
So it works perfectly.
So tell me about like the flour you use, the water, your ratios, and how it works.
So
there's no eggs in this pasta.
No,
right?
no eggs. So this pasta is just like 0 flour. And obviously I always suggest to use Italian flour.
Always. It's a major difference.
It is a major difference.
Is.
So many people, they come to my restaurant because we use Italian flour, then they'll be like, I usually eat pasta and I feel sick.
Yeah.
But then every time I come to your restaurant, because I guess because we use Italian flour, then your body just is different. Like reacting in different
processes
ways.
it differently because actually Chef Michele that works here as well, she feels the exact same way. She's like, I go to Italy, I can eat all this pasta, but then when I come to the United States, I can't eat any of it unless she's at like a truly authentic Italian restaurant because of the flour. Like the flour
it makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
flour
really
is a very important thing. I mean, when you have just 2 ingredients, that is water and flour, you want to use the best of the two, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You got New York water, so you're good right there. It's pretty good. New York water's pretty good. I don't know.
You can use Italian water too.
That's true. It's hard to get around here.
But yeah, so here I have just simple 300 grams of flour and I have 150 grams of water.
Okay.
So I don't put salt at all in my dough. Because we have salt in the cooking water, and so for osmosis, basically the pasta is gonna absorb the salt from the water.
Yep.
And so I'm gonna mix all these ingredients together.
Nice. I'm just over here making eggplant.
Yeah.
So I have
So
chopped
what are you
eggplant.
doing there?
I have a little olive oil, and I'm not too concerned about how I cut the eggplant because I'm gonna food process it anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna kind of cook the moisture out of the eggplant. And I'm not going to salt it right now because when you salt eggplant or you salt something, it pulls out the moisture. So I don't want to do that because I want to actually brown it up. So we're going to cook that down with a little bit of onion, a little bit of garlic, puree it up, and we're going to be adding a very cool binder. I'm actually using cooked rice. Maybe you guys can help me say that word. What kind of rice is that?
Carbonara?
Yeah, that's it. Yep, we're using that kind of rice, and I cooked it and I've cooled it, and so that's going to be my binder. So I've made these eggplant meatballs before with like a rice potato. So I really wanted to try using this rice as my starch to kind of hold it together. And I did it yesterday and it worked great. So it's gonna work great for you guys at home.
I'm so fascinated about this rice because I never heard about Calabrian rice.
Okay. I will start
Yeah,
with that.
I'm confused a little bit as well because today I was like, oh, should I not be using rice?
Let's think about
But it was one of the ingredients
trade.
listed, so I'm confused.
I'll tell you about trade and
Okay.
how in the ancient times the trade was done. The Romans used to have roads that used to be built only to get product from specific areas. So, from the Orient, they used to have a route that brought them rice and items that considered to be Oriental. During medieval times, some of that fell away.
Okay.
Here comes the Arabs, invade Sicily and Calabria, and bring the cultivation of rice again. Actually, one of the dish that you're actually preparing has all the tradition and all the races that have been in Calabria.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
the
Didn't even know
Greeks,
that.
Amazing.
the Arabs, you're gonna have tomato,
Yeah.
that's a Spanish.
Wow.
So, you're basically recreating the history of Calabria in a dish.
Wow. Touching
Rice,
upon all the cultures.
rice was a big item for the Arabs, and they use it as a binder. It was actually with Arabs. Tradition in Calabria allows them to, and even when they do some salumi, they add rice into it. But the cultivation there, since Calabria is a little Switzerland, I call it, and you need a lot of water to cultivate rice.
Right.
The area in Cosenza that this rice comes from, Cosenza Croton. So I'm sorry, I just want to be sure that
You're saying.
yeah, Cosenza. Yeah, I was right.
It's always
Which is
with a C.
CS or
and-
CZ or CR. So where Cosenza is from, the tradition came with the Arabs and the cultivation or irrigation of the fields. Since there is a lot of water coming from the mountains, pure water, it creates this unique rice with where the amino acids are unique. That's what they're great for binding.
Okay. All right, so that's good. So there's a lot of starch in there.
There's a lot of starch in there. You know, those are things that people have forgot because Calabria is a little bit isolated compared to the rest of the world in Italy because of the roads and stuff. So certain things only come in little drops.
Right.
And that's one of those things, you know.
So rice is not a popular item in Calabria.
Yeah,
It is now.
It's always been popular.
Yeah.
You know, in certain areas. You have to, depending where the cultivation is,
Right.
there's more rice than everything else.
Okay.
One of the items is rice balls, which is a Sicilian item, but it's used in Calabria too.
Right.
And there's you know, the sea area, they use risotto or paella style because of the Spanish influence
Right.
that they get there. So rice is more used than what you think.
Okay.
It's not the north that uses rice.
Whew. I thought
know.
I was going to have to leave the video for a second.
No.
I was like,
That's
oh,
all right.
man.
And like we were talking about, the first ingredients are the most important. She says it's very simple. The
Right.
flour, you know, Italian flour has a uniqueness that it's controlled by the government, what goes into it. So a lot of pesticides don't fall into it. So Italian flour is great for that. But going back to the olive oil that you're using, is if you're using eggplant, right? And you put a bad olive oil or an olive oil that has enough flavor, it will be absorbed into
100%.
100%.
And it'll make that eggplant taste bitter.
Takes bitter.
Like, because it's happened to me before, where
Yes.
I've used like really not good olive oil, and then it's just, ugh, it's not good.
It's not all.
Good.
So-
You taste the difference.
So this thing, the olive oil you have, when you're looking for olive oil, you always make sure that you have the right age of the olive oil, that it's not old olive oil.
I'm going to say that's so important, guys, because in the United States, I think olive oil is taken so lightly, where like people just pick up whatever they want at the store, and they're like, I'm not going to buy an expensive olive oil to cook with. Like maybe to finish something with, but not to cook with. And that's like the mentality of just like Americans, like growing up, like that's, you know, you bought whatever olive oil you saw, but I think as I've gotten older, and obviously I'm in the food industry, like you see how important the olive oil is that you're actually using.
The La Mezza DOP is great because it has the uniqueness, the grassiness that you need to finish for fish and anything else. And you have the lightness or the butteriness because the profile is buttery with a grass finish.
Yeah.
So it will allow you to like, you know, give it to fry with it. Some olive oils you cannot really fry with it. But this is perfect for it.
That's very important.
And the fact that it's in a dark bottle shows me that it spent a lot of time. One thing you should look for is the DOP symbol.
What does the dark bottle mean?
Well, you don't want the light. The biggest enemy for olive oils is light and oxygen. You don't buy olive oil that is going to stay in your pantry for 2 years. You know, be a month and a half maximum once you buy open the bottle.
My olive oil lasts me like a week.
Yeah,
really
mine too. So.
Or you do the old style that it's you take some aluminum foil
and you cover everything.
and you cover everything, even if the bottle is dark.
Yeah.
That's what in my family will do it. You know.
To make it last longer?
Yeah, so they last longer because of the light and everything.
That's a great tip.
So in the meantime, I
What
made
have you
the
done
dough.
over here?
Yeah, and for the magic of TV, actually arrested the dough.
Wow.
So this is kind of the texture of it. So it's not sticky.
It's like a pillow.
It's smooth.
It's soft.
It's soft. And then the next step that I'm doing is basically I'm doing these little snakes over here. And I'm gonna cut them kind of this size.
2 inches.
2 inches.
Yeah.
Still have to be good with the inches and feet and these kind of things.
I'm sure that's challenging. I'm not really good with them either, and I grew up here, so.
And so then I'm gonna put the ferretto in and just gonna roll it up. And that's it. So basically this one is the little place where all the sauce goes in it and lives there. And that's
So
basically your dream place. That's where you want to build your house.
I want to live in there,
Chef, I want to say something because we Italians have this stigma. A lot of the Americans think that pasta was invented by the Chinese and Marco Polo brought it to Italy. The dish that the chef is doing is actually one of the oldest dish from history. You know, the Romans and the Greeks used to make what they call Maccheruni, which is basically a flour and water mixed with some with some sauce.
Yeah.
At the time, it was not tomato sauce, since tomato sauce was brought into Europe in the 1500s. They will actually use like honey. They will actually use like fish sauce. They will actually.
I'm using fish sauce.
You see,
Are you?
you know, from the Roman times, you know, the garum was a big item, and whatever they found around, that's what the Romans and the Greeks used to do with the pasta. So pasta is not Chinese. I mean, they make some noodles, but
Yeah,
it's not
different.
different.
Stories. But yeah, I'm using actually colatura di alici as well, because, you know, kind of, it's like a base for Calabrian cuisine
Yes,
too.
it
It's
is.
like
Fish
anchovies.
sauce? Oh.
Anchovies, more,
Anchovies.
and like, yeah.
Well, don't forget, we have the Messina Strait, which allows for a lot of fish to go through the channel. So fishing is very important for Calabria. Or you have swordfish, which is a great item, tuna.
Bagnara Calabria
Bagnara
is
Calabria
actually
is
the place.
Is the place for swordfish. And anchovies were the basis, especially in the south. The Romans made a lot of. They were crazy for garum. It was the ketchup, so they used it on everything. So from Sicily to Calabria, they really built a lot of labs that made garum, which was the drying, the liquid of the anchovies being
Okay.
pressed.
So is that just like a way to
Fish sauce.
preserve it ultimately?
Yeah,
or-
preserved, but you know, it's actually the fish sauce flavor that added to their food.
Okay. And I find that my tomato sauce I make with anchovies. I put like 2 or 3 in the base of it, and then I slow roast the tomatoes, like whole Samorzanos in the oven, and it gives it this like slight umami flavor that everyone's
Yeah.
like, "What's that?" I'm like, "I'm not telling you."
Yeah, no, because
Dude, I
then,
just told you.
That's
Because
a secret,
then-
everybody.
That's a secret ingredient.
because then everybody's like, I don't like anchovies. Like,
Oh, everybody.
you think you don't, but
You
actually you eat it so many times that
And
you
they
don't even
know.
realize
They
it.
don't even know. All right, let me catch you guys up with what I'm going on over here. So I did probably 2-3 tablespoons of olive oil into this pan, about 2 pints of cherry tomatoes, a shallot, and we're just gonna kind of roll them around in that fat. We want those tomatoes to burst. So I'm gonna lower the heat a little bit. I'm gonna cover them, and that's what's gonna create our sauce. Once they start bursting, I'm gonna deglaze the pan with some wine, and I believe it's Calabrian wine, if I'm correct.
Yes,
So we should definitely talk about that a little later when we're drinking it and eating all of this stuff. And then also I have my eggplant sauteed with onion, garlic. I added in my rice and some breadcrums. I'm going to pulse it a little bit just to bring it together before I add the cheese because it's piping hot. But do not panic because I have a camera swap over here that's chilled that we're gonna fry up so we can taste it. So we're just gonna kind of let this come together a little bit. And you're gonna see how it really comes together with the rice. So it's almost like a version of like an arancini or something you'd wanna do. It's interesting. I first decided to make an eggplant meatball probably a few years ago. And that's when I was trying to do it without breadcrumbs or a binder because so many people, you know, are gluten-free or they can't eat certain things or they can't have eggs or something. So to me, the solution was rice and cheese. So, you know, it's a good solution.
The quality of the rice being, you know, well done, and with the right amino acid, you find the right binding.
Right, exactly. I'm adding in the pecorino
We're going to go to
crotonese,
which is sheep milk cheese.
and that's going to add a lot of saltiness to my meatballs. So I'm going to be careful with the level of salt.
Well, you know, it gets a lot of salt if it's older than 45 days because
it's not crazy salty, like the normal pecorino that's like
with sheep milk cheeses.
Toscano is very salty.
With sheep milk cheeses, that when you have salt to cure in the brine, what happens is as it gets older, it absorbs, the salinity comes through a little longer.
Okay.
Instead with the cow's milk cheeses, it becomes sweeter. You know, that's the difference. So, you know, if you want to grate or add flavor or umami flavor to your dishes, always is older sheep milk cheese that you should use.
Okay.
In this case, you know, the crotonese vecchio will be the right perfect combination for your recipe.
Fabulous.
You know, the young one is 15 to 45 days will be used for charcuterie plate because it has a very delicate flavor.
Right. So you
That'll
don't
be
want to
perfect.
melt that into anything.
Oh, you can melt it if you were gonna do it like you were saying in the oven.
Right.
You can put it on top. It can be a nice melting cheese.
Okay.
Let's not forget, it's like, you know, Calabrian like to bake a lot of the pasta too, and that the crotonese fresco is added on top as a melting cheese.
Right. What's your favorite Calabrian dish, like that your mom makes? Is it this?
This one, yes. So usually this one is actually made
With
with
eggplant?
eggplant. Otherwise, yeah, there is other pasta called pasta pasticciata. That is basically pasta pasticciata.
That's my favorite too.
Okay, what's that one?
It's basically, so, you know, everybody thinks that pasta with meatballs is typical tradition in Italy.
Right.
So let's say that maybe pasta pasticciata is the
closest thing.
The closest thing, yeah. So it's basically like rigatoni, lightly cooked in a tomato sauce, and the tomato sauce is always the leftover sauce.
Got it.
From the ragu or whatever.
Yeah, from the ragu or whatever. And then she will add like pecorino crotonese, she will add mozzarella, green pea,
some salumi.
eggs, salami.
Eggs?
Yes.
To the pasta?
Yes.
Yeah. Or hard-boiled eggs.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, it's
And then meatballs, little meatballs, like this big.
Oh.
And so that every time you will fight over that meatball.
There's not many of them.
It's actually the origin that comes from another influence that comes from it'd be Greek, but during the medieval, after the medieval times, you know, the lords of the land will send their some of their favorite chefs up to France to learn how to cook some dishes, and that would be like the timballo. In Sicily, of Monzu, but the same thing was in Calabria.
Okay.
So some recipes to make, you know, pasta in that style is really traditionally an Arabic way of cooking pasta, but the French defined it in the timballo, which has become very popular in the U.S.
Wow. Huh. Very interesting.
But yeah, otherwise my aunt will add arancini is like one of the things, even if it's influenced by the Sicilian, but still it's like, I feel like it's one of it's my favorite dish.
Like the Greek says, una faccia una razza. In this case, the Calabrian and Sicilians have a lot to share in common, you know?
But she will do the same thing. She will do this pasta and then she will make about 100 arancini so that you're stocked up till the next time she will come back.
Wow.
Make sure that you are not starving. You know, in a typical Calabrian family, when you start with appetizers, which starts like 4 hours earlier. You know, you have salumi, some cheeses, some veggies that were pickled and.
This is why America's taking over these kinds of traditions, because they love them and they always want to find a reason to eat more.
And I think traditionally Calabria is one of those land-standing places because of the insularity they have.
Talk to me about your sauce.
Yes.
What you put into it, and then I think we're gonna
Start
go
cooking
through
up.
it. Start cooking up and plating
Yeah,
it.
so water is boiling over here, and
Yeah.
I have the pasta. So the pasta is best actually if it stays like on and gets a little drier.
Okay.
So then it has like a better texture when you cook it up. And then the sauce is very simple. It's actually just tomato, olive oil. I actually brought some tomato that they are from home.
Oh my gosh, what a treat.
And,
That's amazing.
And these tomatoes, olive oil, garlic. The garlic is put it in as in camicia, that it means like in a shirt.
Oh.
So I didn't peel it. I just left it with the skin and
Camicia,
everything.
I like that. Okay.
And then I'm not gonna add any salt because I have the colatura agli alici. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of this one instead of salt. So it gives kind of
Okay, I
the
need to smell
umami
this.
flavor.
You should try a little bit.
Wow, okay.
It's a gurum. You know, the Romans call it gurum.
Okay, if you insist.
Well, you can just.
It's just a little, just like caviar.
All right.
You like caviar?
Wow, it's really salty. It's like, my finger's gonna smell forever. It's like thank you for that. It's like a cross between almost fish sauce and soy sauce.
Salsa.
Yeah.
That's like what I get.
You know, isn't that interesting? That
so
the other place
interesting.
in the world we find something like that is in the Orient.
You would never know that ingredient in America. Like
No.
you would think
Yeah,
that
no.
was an Asian ingredient.
Yeah.
100%.
And then another ingredient that is very important in Calabrian cuisine is oregano, dry oregano. Other things in that suitcase that I told you, there will be always.
Man, I want to get a suitcase, guys.
The oregano from Montagna, mountain oregano, is actually the one that's sought after, because the
Is
oils.
that dried?
Yes, it is dry,
Yeah.
but the elevation where it grows adds extra oil. All the oils are very intense,
Okay.
so it gives you the right flavor even when you dry it.
Got
They
it.
usually dry in the shade, not in the sun, because they don't want the oils to dissipate. So the intensity
Dry
is
in
there.
the shade. So, okay, got it. So like that keeps the moisture intact.
Yes.
And so I have a bag of that also in my house, even if I'm here. It's
You
a
always
must.
have a bag of things from home.
Yeah, eggplant, jar eggplant. So my
Pickled?
aunt, pickle eggplant. They're like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And I'm
Oh, I
so
love
sad
them.
because
I
I
love
finished
them.
all my eggplant.
Oh, no.
And it's been almost 2 years I'm not going home.
Oh no! So my friend, who I started doing Italian lessons with, she lives in New Jersey. It kind of fell off during the pandemic. It needs to happen again. But anyway, her family is from a small town in the Amalfi Coast. They have a limoncello business, and she tells me about all the stuff she brings home with her from Italy when she goes to visit. And they do the pickled eggplant
Yeah, the
at
pickled
home
eggplant are so
in New
good.
Jersey, and it's
Yes.
like takes
Oh.
days. They like press it, and it's this whole process. And she sent me some one time, and I was like, oh wow.
It's such a long process because also, what's funny, because as a child, I never realized certain things. Now everything is like
You appreciate them
fermented.
afterwards, yeah.
Now
Yeah.
everything is fermented, so cool, and these kind of
Right.
things. But actually, like, even without knowing, my aunt, that's what she does. She ferments eggplant.
Wow.
Because the process will be like, you take the eggplant, you wash them, you put it under salt and water. It's like such a process. And then after 2 weeks, then you put in the jar and you add a little olive oil.
The
Good olive oil,
patience,
not
Good
bad.
olive
the
oil.
patience Italians have is
Good
like
olive
unlike
oil.
any other. The patience is unlike
And
any
you're
other.
like, wait a second, so you ferment and you use all these techniques that like people are like just discovering now when actually we always use them before.
That's part of the cucina povera that everybody thinks that was the poor people cooking, but in reality it's very enriched in tradition in many ways.
Yeah. So I'm gonna drop the pasta. It's
Do
gonna
it.
be super quick to cook,
Amazing.
like a minute. And as I said, like the sauce is just tomato, garlic, olive oil, the oregano. I'm gonna add a little bit of basil just right at the end. And then on the plate, there will be, so I made some Calabrian chili breadcrumbs. So I like some focaccia at home, and I mix it with a little bit garlic, raw garlic, Calabrian chilies, some oregano, and that's it. Very,
Alright.
very simple.
Let's do it. I'm so excited. She had some focaccia at home just hanging out.
Yeah.
Just on the counter. She's
You know,
just going to add it in.
we made focaccia at LaRina, and so we have a lot of focaccia always hanging around.
But that's not a thing for me. If there's focaccia anywhere, I'm eating the whole thing. So I've just fried up my meatballs here. They could become pretty much like little patties. I try to keep them round. And then my sauce, the cherry tomatoes have really bursted. I'm using a fork to kind of push them down. I added a little bit of white wine, some fresh basil, and you can see just that. Right now we're in New York, so tomatoes are kind of coming into season. They're getting sweeter. So there's a lot of flavor packed in here. The shallots are also a nice sweetness. And we're going to plate our meatballs and top it with that. Some more pecorino, and that's it.
Pecorino crotonese. Always remember to mention the locality because
Is that right?
Crotonese.
Crotonese.
that identifies
It's
the
important.
product.
I know.
Because if you say pecorino in general, it means
People-
sheep milk cheese.
Right.
But you have to, even when you buy it, you always have to identify it.
Yep.
Don't just primo sale or pecorino. You always say pecorino crotonese, provola silana, caciocavallo silano, olio extravergine, lamezia.
I wish there was some Tropea onion.
Well, that's what I was going to say, but I didn't want to interfere.
Some what?
One of the most typical items out of Calabria is Tropea onions. They come from a small town with a beautiful beach called town of Tropea.
It's
They're
beautiful.
very blue. They have a beautiful color.
They're onions?
The
Yeah.
onions. So no Calabrian will
But you
use
cannot
where you
find
just.
I can't get them here, so
Yeah,
that's
you
my
cannot
excuse.
get them
I
here.
would have had them,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I just didn't know.
It's just
Couldn't get
they're out of season right now. Let's put it this way. Actually, they're coming into the U.S. They come in jars,
Yeah, but not fresh.
not fresh.
I wish.
And that's another representation of DOP, denomination origin protected, because the Tropea just got the certification. So even a fruit or a veggie can be a DOP.
Wow. Wow, that's a big
Smells
deal.
great.
Thank you. It's
Amazing.
smelling good in here, guys. All right, so we are going to plate this up. I'm gonna do.
Just making some extra pasta, you know.
That's totally
I think
not a problem. I think everyone will appreciate extra pasta.
that's the Calabrian you know.
Yeah, that's
I'm worrying
the
about
Calabrian me.
if everybody's
I'm
gonna be
worried
fed.
for that dough, you know.
Worry about everybody's gonna be
No
fed.
dough will go wasted, don't worry. So I'm putting my sauce right on the bottom here. And we are going to add our meatballs to the top, and then we're gonna garnish with some more.
Just want to stress out, the Calabrians have a lot of family traditions, and they revolve about tradition and food. You know, from parties to creating items like making the tomato sauce. It becomes a huge excuse to prepare food, preserve food. So, you know, food is very important in the Calabrian society, and the quality of the food is very important. As you can see, very simple ingredients, and it's going to taste amazing. I just can't wait to taste it.
So much pressure.
There is a lot.
I usually don't do that. Yeah.
And then you're gonna finish yours with the breadcrumbs and your. And that's it.
Yeah, some breadcrumbs and just the cheese.
All right. Last but not least, I'm going to grate. Now the question is, where are all these graters? Okay. Pecorino crotonese.
Crotonese.
Correct.
I got it. It only took me an hour.
Stagionato.
Only
That's a
took me an hour.
stagionato. Don't forget to mention this. That's the
Right on top of our eggplant meatballs.
And if you were baking them, you can use provola silana to add that cheese. In it.
Right on top.
On top.
So do like a parmigiano kind of feel.
Yeah.
A little drizzle of beautiful olive oil to kind of complement everything. And that's it, guys. Eggplant meatballs.
Beautiful.
Thank you,
Beautiful.
thank you. They look really nice, actually. Well done, me. Very happy with them.
Copyrighted. Sorry.
So I didn't want to use too much salt because I want to use the colatura di alici and then also for the cheese. So that's why right now I'm plating them just like the sauce and the pasta.
It's like
This
This is the famous garlic
camicia.
That's
aglio and camicia because
that's
you
like
know,
an elephant piece of garlic.
it is.
Is it? I'm like, it looks really big.
Well, you know, I had to make some more pasta, but we're gonna add a little more.
Beautiful. It's a big platter. It's fine. I think it's time for wine.
Yes, it is, Jackie.
It's always time for wine.
It's always
but-
time for wine, and we have a very good friend, a New York importer, and he's also the brand manager and the importer of Tenute Ferrocento, which is the company that brought us the wine, so that we thank for their sponsorship today. So let me walk over to Michele Cianciulli over there,
Okay.
so where we can talk about the wine, and then we're gonna have all together a toast with this wonderful wine.
Amazing. Okay, sounds good.
We are here with Michele Cianciulli. Thank you, Michele, for coming in our showroom, participating to our masterclass to Calabria. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Michele?
Okay, I am from Italy, from south of Italy, from Campania region, Avellino, a small city up in the in the hills between Naples and Bari. I moved from Italy 20 years ago. Always was working in the wine business, and over 10 years ago, I opened my company with another person, and I am the proud importer and selector of these wines from Calabria, and we import pretty much almost 6-7 years. We are very successful with these wines. They are particulars. In this case, talking about Calabria, we are in the northern part of Calabria. Calabria, for everybody know, is the last region of the land, the Italy, the peninsula. And this area particular is northern part in the Sibari area, under the Pollino Hills, Pollino Mountains, because it's the mountains that divide Basilicata from Calabria, and we go from the mountains to the flat land, and in the flat lands, basically, we have this very old production of rice, because we have flatlands in the Sibari town, that all these areas, they are under the sea level, and when they give water to the land, they use basically sea salt water. In this rice, you can find a lot of saltness, a lot of minerality, is much more texture than the regular cannaroli that come from the northern part. And basically, Masseria Fornara, 55, 60 years ago, restart because the growing of rice got lost because it came from the Greeks, from the Romans, the production from Greeks, basically in the Magna Grecia. And Masseria Fornara, they restart with another 2-3 producers, the rice.
So Michele, this rice, if I understand correctly, is particularly interesting for chefs because has a natural saltiness that they can use to make dishes. So it's much more flavorful than cannaroli rice that they may find in other parts of Italy.
Yes,
correct?
much more minerality, much more because the land is under the sea level, and the got the influx of the Ionio Sea, that is one of the most salty sea in the Mediterranean area.
Yes.
And you have all these connubio of conditions because it's not, there are 3 areas to produce rice in Italy. 2 are in the north. This is the unique, the only one in the south.
The only area in the south.
The only area in the south.
It's very interesting because I didn't even know that they made rice.
We imported. We started a couple years ago with this rice. We have 3 years ago actually, and we don't count the COVID year basically because it's a year that nobody had doing nothing. But and a lot of chefs, they push us because basically we are specialized in wine. For us, it's a particular product we have in our portfolio, in our book.
That's great.
Okay,
let's focus on the wines.
Let's go to the wines. Let's go to the wines, and basically, Masseria Ferrucinto is Tenuta Ferrucinto Masseria is an old villa in the hills right under the Pollino Mountains. Is owned by the Salituri Baron, a Jewish old family from Calabria. They grow grapes in the last 400 years, but they never barreled, and they sold out to outside bulk to basically even outside the region. Because, for example, the first wine that we taste today is a Pecorello. The Pecorello is a white wine that they used to blend in the other whites, and a lot of producers, they don't even care about this grape before they blend. They together.
So this one is 100% Pecorello.
100% Pecorello from the hills is 450 meters above the sea level, because in the flat land come the rice, the wine, the vineyards are higher level. This winery basically goes from 250-300 meters above the sea level to 550, 600, the highest level. Basically, when you go from the province, when you take the Salerno-Reggio Calabria, soon you pass the Pollino, you see the valley.
That's interesting. Well,
interesting, and you can say that is very mineral.
Yeah.
You taste the minerality. A nice aroma of white flowers, and the finish a little peppery, a little spicy.
Yeah. That's great.
It's a great wine for fish, but even for a nice
light pasta.
With some pasta with simple tomatoes will be great. And
what about the second white that we have here, Michele?
Okay, the second wine is a blend. It's another white from basically the same area. The vineyards are a little lower, and you can taste in the wine they are a little lower. The difference is a blend between 2 grapes, native grapes from Calabria. One is Greco Bianco, and another one is Montonico.
Wow.
all these wines, the two whites, just remind that they are made in stainless steel, no touch oak at all. You can see we don't taste any vanilla.
Yes.
We taste
Yes,
just
very clean, very
clean.
And still a lot of minerality too.
All minerality, yes, yes. And this is 2017 white wine from Calabria that can age very, very well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
This,
I think this is something
this
that
wine, this white wine with the Crotonese, with the Pecorino del Tueo is
it's perfect. This is
perfect.
perfect. It would be
and
perfect. It's interesting because a lot of people in the United States, they don't like to, drink white wines, aged white wines. But I think the issue is because
yes,
they're not good quality
because
wines.
the big issue sometimes with white wines is that is not very friendly aging.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't age well, and the wine goes down. I tasted old barrels of Greco Bianco of Montonico at the winery, 20 years old.
Well, that's great. That's great.
And this aged very well.
But I see
Now
here
we
this is a very special wine for you.
This is a very special wine because basically, if we go back to the history of the wine history of Calabria, the modern wine history of Calabria, we gotta go to Librandi, the most famous producer in Calabria. He became famous with Magno Megonio. Magno Megonio is made by Magliocco grapes. Oh. This barrel is 100% Magliocco grape, made in stainless steel, with few months of aging in big cask, Slavonian oak, cask of 2,000, 3,000. They do a blending between 2,000, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000.
Michele, a lot of people here in the United States, they always ask us, since they don't have experience with this type of grape, if you have to explain the Magliocco to a wine drinker in the United States that hasn't tried the wine before, what kind of taste profile, what is the wine that is closest to him?
Taste profile, you cannot tell Magliocco that is like, is an heavy wine. It's not an heavy wine, it's a delicate wine. You can drink this wine even on a fish. For example, salmon is fat fish. This is not a heavy tannins. Is elegant with nice nose, nice aroma of a little
white pepper, I think.
White pepper, little letters.
Yeah.
Hint of a coffee. But again, is very food friendly because the secret of wines, the good wines must be food friendly. Otherwise.
All right.
Otherwise, we don't drink wine on a nice talking.
Yes, yes. We have here also, I think, the last one that
we go to the last one.
This is a Cabernet, right?
This was importing Cabernet from Calabria.
It's kind of a risk. What do you say?
Was kind of a risk, but it was my idea because can be a Cabernet Sauvignon. Everybody knows a Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
But nobody knows Cabernet Sauvignon from Calabria.
Yeah.
You have always to open barrels, propose, taste, and find the spot,
the right audience.
the right audience. And now this wine is by the glass in so many restaurants, Italian places.
It's a very pleasant.
It's very pleasant.
Much, it's a totally different style compared to the Californian Cabernet Sauvignon. This is
over here,
no oak, no.
No, over here there is no wood. There is no wood chip. There is just grape.
And wine. Yeah.
That's it. Because you not taste sweetness, roundness, smell of Dori vanilla. Dori vanilla, because you can say that is especially in the lower end Cabernet Sauvignon. They use a little to round from the heavy tannins because Cabernet Sauvignon is always. It's very pleasant Cabernet Sauvignon. It's French style Cabernet Sauvignon,
well,
basically.
Thank you, Michele, for this presentation. Thank you to our friends of Ferrocento. I think we want you to try this wine as soon as possible. So thank you again, and thank you for joining us for this wonderful.
Cheers to Calabria.
Cheers
Salute.
to Calabria.
Salute. Salute.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the presentation of the wine, and thank you, Michele, for doing this for us. Please, let's have all together a tasting.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I've cooked with some of it, but I can't wait to taste it.
Thank you, Michele. Please.
Ladies first.
Thank you, sir. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Smells delish.
It's the food and the wine.
This is what,
I think it's the company too.
yeah,
The
definitely
company.
the company.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed. Smells
Cheers.
very well.
Salute.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Salute.
To Calabria.
To Calabria.
Cheers to Calabria.